been watching an episode of Star Trek and thought to yourself, wait a second, haven't I seen this before? Well, the answer is probably. From series to series, we get episode do-overs that are a chance to retell and hopefully upgrade a previous story idea. But does the new episode always get it right? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this live stream series called Double Take. Now let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the Savage Stream, the weekly live stream where we talk all things Star Trek. And today we are continuing our Double Take series, but today's the spooky special. So we're going to do three, not one, not two, but three sets of double takes. Now these sets of episodes are not going to be a carbon copy plot like we've done in the past. We had two episodes of Trek that were pretty much identical, but just done in different series with different actors, but it was the same exact plot. This is going to be different. Our three sets are going to be more thematically linked than a beat by beat, scene by scene copy. The first category is going to be kind of a mind control, so mind control episodes. The second category is going to be virus-led episodes. And then the third category is going to be zombies, because it wouldn't be a spooky special without zombies. I want to say welcome to everybody who is here live. Welcome to everybody who's on the replay. If you are watching on the replay, there are timestamps below, so you can jump ahead at any time. If, however, you are watching live, two things. One, I apologize for looking like a blurry mess, and I am guessing that my voice is also lagging pretty heavily. So, that's going to be something to work on. Sometimes my internet's good, sometimes it's not. I cannot control that, but I'm going to try. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, if you are a member of the away team, if you're a channel member, definitely drop a $! In the chat so that I can see that you are here. Okay, without further ado, one more thing that I almost forgot. This time I'm doing something different. In all of our past streams, when I've done a double take, I judge each episode based on three categories, and then I decide which one did it better. The first category is like set deck / alien looks. So it's kind of like the ambiance and the vibe. The second category is character development. Like, was that satisfying or not? And then the third category is storytelling. Who told the story better? So we're going to still do those three categories, but this time you are going to be the judge. If you're here on YouTube, whether you're live or on the replay, there is a link pinned in the chat, in the live chat, where you can cast your vote. Now, feel free to cast it at any time. You can cast it while you're watching now. Matter of fact, if you're watching on your TV, you can get super close and scan this QR code, and you can also cast your vote. Or if you want to, you can wait until we finish our discussion and then cast your votes, especially since the way it's set up, you can only vote once. So if you change your mind, that's fine. It just won't be in the actual poll. Okay, without further ado, let's look at our first two episodes. And the category for the first two episodes is mind control episodes. So let's check out episode number 1. Season 1, episode 21, The Return of the Archons. The Enterprise arrives at Beta 3 to find out what happened to the USS Archon. On the planet, they discover an idyllic western town where the people are just a little too perfect. That is, until they suddenly all lose their minds and start raging and pillaging and assaulting one another. After a harrowing investigation, the crew finds out that the people are being mind controlled by a mysterious entity called Landru, who seeks to maintain his version of the perfect society. So I am new in my journey through the original series. I've still only made it halfway through the first season after an entire lifetime of saying, I refuse to watch TOS. I have now had to eat those words, as I had for many a Trek show. Had to do the same thing for Lower Decks. I refuse to watch a cartoon, and it was so great. It's like one of my favorite of all the Star Treks. Anyways, when I watched this particular episode, it just really, I don't know. I thought it was great. I thought everything about it was great. I mean, all the like raping, pillaging, murder, that was awful, but it was done really well. Like the way that they showed people losing their minds, even in that clip I just showed, where they had a woman, she basically like bit her glove off of her hand and just like put her hands through her hair, which doesn't seem too wild, but the way she did it looked so creepy and insane. I just think they really sold the whole the population has gone wild thing. Exactly. It's like The Purge. Exactly. It's like The Purge, but like Trek version from the 60s, right? And so I don't know if this episode was actually meant to be scary in any way. But I thought it was terrifying. Like the concept of this is really terrifying. It felt very like Children of the Corn, right? It was very like, there's some people here who, like we don't know what's going on. We don't know if we're safe. And at first they seem nice is maybe not the word, neutral, blank. At first they seem kind of blank. They're all walking really slowly. They talk really slowly. Everything is like, I don't want to say positive. It's not negative, but it's just very neutral. And then all of a sudden the clock strikes whatever time it was. I don't know if it was noon, midnight, 6 p.m., whatever time it was. And then everybody goes crazy. And it's like the computer that was running that was mind controlling all the people wanted to create a perfect society. And so that dull, bland, neutral thing was what was its idea of perfection. But it also knew that if humans don't have an outlet for their other emotions, all the emotions other than neutral. So like in this episode, it was really just about like rage and lust and, envy and all these things, murder. But like we could also just throw in like happiness, sadness, joy, just like regular emotions, because it seemed like the average people didn't really have those. The computer knew that if humans are not able to express themselves, they won't be happy. They won't be able to be happy sustainably. Like things will go terribly wrong eventually. So this was the computer solution. I will control your emotions for most of the year. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. How often did this crazy thing happen? I had a sense it was annual, but I don't actually remember the frequency of the going crazy. Maybe it happened every week. I don't know. Maybe it happened once a day. I'm not sure. But they referred to it as some kind of festival or something. So in my mind, it was happening annually. But anyways, the computer realized that there needed to be some kind of pressure valve to kind of open periodically to make sure that the humans kind of maintained all of their levels. Somehow the mind control was not 100% effective, which, that's actually pretty legit, right? If we're going to do any kind of science on anybody, it's not always going to be 100% effective. So some of the people weren't under the total mind control, but if they were discovered, if they were found out to be not under the total mind control, they got like a second brainwash or surgery or whatever they did to control the people. They got like a booster of mind control so they could kind of fall back in line. So there was this whole underground resistance of people who weren't under the full control of Landru, but they didn't want other people to know they weren't under the full control of Landru, right? Because then they would get brainwashed again. So even that, I think, is such an interesting idea for a scary episode, even though it's not like monsters. It's definitely terrifying. Like living in this town or near this town would be terrifying. Also, turns out Landru, who is a robot, originally started as a person, and that person was trying to save the colony, ? A little fuzzy on the background about this, but I think he was trying to save the colony and from total destruction, but he knew he was going to die someday. So he built this computer that can do the mind control to try to like help the descendants live on and live happily. And I think at this point, and again, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I think at this point, the guy has been long dead. And I think the robot version of him has been doing this for like 6,000 years or something crazy, some really long time that people have been under this mind control thing. So of course, when Kirk and company show up, they're like, wait a minute, this is a robot in charge of everything? That's terrible. And then they just blow it up. They're like, nope, we're done with that. Humans don't need a robot to control them. So they just phaser it. It explodes. And then all the people are like, what? What's going on? Where am I? What's happening? Because technically these people, except for the people who the mind control didn't work on, everybody else, so like 98% of the population, hasn't had free will their entire lives. So now suddenly they have free will. And so Kirk and company is like, job well done. Bye, everybody. And they get on their ship and they leave. So I guess we just, hope for the best for these people. The reason they were there, by the way, is because a Federation ship went missing on that planet. And so they were coming to like investigate and see what happened and see if they could find the missing officers and stuff. The opening scene is like one officer running for his life. And then we don't ever see that officer again. So I don't think they got the crew back safely of that other ship, because the ship crashed and then the people who survived were mind controlled ? I'm not really sure. But there was also some like B plot, or I guess a C plot at this point, where the Enterprise was going to crash onto the planet also if they didn't destroy Landru within 12 hours. So they were on a ticking clock. They did all the tropes. It was amazing. Such a fun episode. Okay. So that is that. And I want to compare that mind control episode to another mind control episode from oh, did it really? Did this episode inspire the Purge? Oh, that's interesting. That makes a lot of sense. Now it's the year 2010. That's funny. Okay, so now I want to compare that episode with the second episode that also involves mind control. Season 5, Episode 24, Empok Nor. Chief O'Brien leads a salvage mission to the abandoned Cardassian station Empok Nor. Once there, Cardassian soldiers who were in stasis awaken and begin to hunt down the crew one by one. The team fights for survival when Garak himself is turned against them, leaving only O'Brien and Nog to fight for their lives. This episode was so good and so terrifying. Mind control in a different way. The first one was a computer doing mind control. In this one, it's a psychotropic drug, some kind of chemical that Garak touched. I think it was actually it was on like a handrail. So it wasn't even, I mean, it was the most kind of accidental stumbling upon a dangerous chemical you could ever see. But Empok Nor, which is a station just like Deep Space Nine, but with all the lights turned off, had been kind of derelict. And so Chief O'Brien and a small handful of engineers and security officers, Nog, Garak, whatever, they all go over to Empok Nor because they need like some piece of equipment, some special thing to fix DS9. And it's faster to just take it from Empok Nor than to like try to replicate one or make one. I don't know, to try to buy one from somewhere. So they go over to Empok Nor. They're like, okay, all we have to do is go in, get in, grab the piece, get out, easy peasy. But then they're like, maybe we should bring Garak because we don't know if the place is booby-trapped from when the Cardassians ran it. Turns out it was super booby-trapped. The first thing they find when they get there is two Cardassians who are like, oh, do they find them or do they find the empty? I think they find, okay, there are two Cardassians in there who are in some kind of stasis tubes. And I think later on they find the stasis tubes are empty. And then Garak is like pushing in the buttons or whatever. And it's like, oh, they were recently emptied. So then they're like, what the heck? Like, why would they leave two Cardassians behind when they cleared out the station? Because at this point, what was this? This is season something. Like they've been out for a long time. So they just left these two people behind for a long time. So they were like, why would they do that? And then Garak was like, I think I know why. I think they were like sentries or soldiers that were put here as a security measure so that if anybody gets past all the codes and locks and whatever and finds themselves roaming around Empok Nor, these two people will be activated and then they'll just like basically slaughter everyone. So the whole episode, they're just slaughtering everyone. They're just like, they're picking off members of this away team one by one because of course they all split up, but they did split up in teams. So they didn't go solo, but all the teams kind of split up and one by one, these two Cardassians are just picking everybody off. So Garak is like, oh, you want to see what a tailor can do? So Garak gets his stuff, and next thing you know, he's going full on Jason Bourne. So he tracks down the two Cardassians and takes care of them, like takes them out. So then everybody's like, oh, phew, like, thanks so much, Garak. We're so glad you came. But because he had touched that handrail in the beginning and a little bit of that psychotropic drug got into his system, it was the same drug that was in those soldiers. And its job is to make you kind of go crazy and get super aggressive and super violent. So all of his skills in the Obsidian Order kind of came out. So I think at this point there were 4 members of the away team left that the other Cardassians did not pick off. So now Garak is like, my turn. So he starts picking off the members of the away team. And you're like, oh no, you were supposed to be a good guy. Now you're a bad guy. So people are just like, one guy, he like knifes him in the stomach, but for some reason doesn't kill him, which I guess works to their favor because when O'Brien stumbles upon him, he's able to gasp out in his last breath, it was Garak. Garak did it. Ugh. So now O'Brien's like, okay. So now O'Brien pulls out his Jason Bourne, right? Because he was a soldier. So he's like, all right, it's us versus them. Like, what do we need to do? And Nog is just like, this is not his jam. Like, this is totally not his scene. He just came for the work. He came for the engineering. He didn't come for all of this. But he's doing his best. He gets immediately kidnapped by Garak. Immediately. And then Garak uses him as bait to like take out O'Brien because O'Brien is the only threat left on the station. Nog is not a threat. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just so well done. And O'Brien saves the day by making an improvised explosive device with his phaser. And somehow Garak survives, which we are happy about because Garak was such a great character. We do not want to lose that character. And then at the end, and that's enough for him to kind of like, he gets knocked out. He gets, I don't know, some broken bones and ribs and whatever. They end up getting back to Deep Space Nine. I'm assuming they ended up getting the part that they came here for in the first place. So they get back. And then when they get back to Deep Space Nine, Garrick is being treated by the doctor, by Bashir, and like all the psychotropic drugs are removed, or there's an antidote or hypo spray that fixes everything, what have you. And O'Brien goes in to talk to Garrick and is kind of like, hey, you know, glad to see you're okay. Glad to see you're back to normal and not trying to like kill me anymore. That's nice. And Garrick is like, yeah, you know, the doctor said the funniest thing. He said that if that phaser had been like 2 more inches to the left or whatever, I would have died. And O'Brien's like, yeah, don't take this the wrong way, but that was sort of the point. That was what I was going for. And Garrick's like, no problem at all. You know, and they kind of like shake hands and part as friends. This was such an interesting episode. Like it was creepy. It was fun to see Garrick being the Garrick we never see when he's a simple tailor. And to see like all those skills that he picked up that he never uses on Deep Space Nine because he's pretending like he doesn't have these skills. I love every time we peel back a layer on Garrick's backstory. So fun. And I love every time we peel back a layer on O'Brien's backstory. Okay. So now I want to compare these two. We're going to compare Empok Nor with the return of the Archons through our 3 categories. So before I talk about those 3 categories, I want to check the chat really quick. Say hello to everybody who's showing up live. Hello to everyone who's still watching on the replay. Scrolling back a bit. PS2 Chipper says, do I feel old when I think about 2010 as recent? I don't feel old, but like, I'm always kind of shocked that, I'm always kind of shocked when I think back to 20 anything. And I'm like, oh shoot, that was like a lot of years ago. I'm just more surprised. A bottle episode, a cheap way to make a set look different. Dim the lights. Yeah, you couldn't have pulled this off as well on any other ship, I feel like. This was just so genius to be like, oh yeah, there's another station exactly like Deep Space Nine, but like with no lights, and it's called Empok Nor. So it looks like it, but it's totally different. I thought that was really smart. Okay, Wingray says they do find the 3 tubes, but the 3rd was broken and he was dead. Well, that's a bummer. So then what? So then they didn't even get what they came for and just everybody died? Well, what was the point of that? Hello, hello, hello. I want to say thank you to PS2 Chipper, who has gifted 10 memberships. So if you are not yet a member of the channel, you can grab one of those memberships and drop a Borg : in the chat. So I know you are one of us. One of us. What? Garrick is an ambassador in Star Trek Online? That's interesting. From spy to ambassador. That's super interesting. Garrick's character brings a whole new meaning to the words the layered look when it comes to his character. 100%. Oh my goodness. Happy birthday. Hope you have the best birthday ever. Things of course are required. I love the layers of Garrick's character. Same. Okay. So on that note, while I'm going through like my 3 categories, feel free to vote for yourself. You can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can tap the link inside of the chats for your vote. So what we're looking at right now is the return of the Archons from TOS versus Empok Nor from Deep Space Nine. And our first category is the kind of the set deck or the alien looks. So as always, it's not going to be an apples to apples comparison. It's not really a fair comparison because in the return of the Archons, they went out of their way to make to reuse an old Western set. So they were trying to not have alien looks. I guess they're kind of like robot informants were, something a little different. It wasn't just humans. But I will say, despite the fact that they didn't have aliens, the costuming was still epic, right? We still had these beautiful like Western outfits, which I thought was really, really fun. On the other hand, we have Deep Space Nine, where almost everybody on that away team was human, to my recollection, except for Garrick, and the Cardassian makeup is always fire. And then we had Nog, and the Ferengi makeup is a lot. Like the prosthetics and all of that is a lot. But from the set itself, Empok Nor is not as interesting just because it is Deep Space Nine. It is the same set, but with the lights down. So if I was going over kind of like the look and the ambiance and the feel, I would personally give the points to TOS. So I have to remember that when it's time to vote at the end, because I'm going to vote at the end. But I would probably give it to TOS just because the set is so different from what we usually see with the Enterprise being in space. We're usually on that ship or on another ship or on an alien planet. But this alien planet looks like America, but America back in the Wild West, which I thought was really, really fun. Okay, the second category is character development. And in the Return of the Archons, I don't think there was any character development, but I don't think that was the point. So I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know what you think in the chat. For Empok Nor, there also wasn't character development in the sense that there was some kind of like lesson learned at the end or something that happened to the characters later on, except for a couple things that I like. So one is we do see character development for Nog, because Nog is like, I mean, he's traumatized by this. We have another episode. I don't remember what it is, but there's another episode where they are somewhere and they're on some away mission. They're on some planet, and Nog and Garrick are tasked to go do something. And as they're walking, Nog is like measuring stuff on his tricorder. He's measuring stuff on his tricorder, and Garrick is like notices that Nog is making sure that Garrick stays in front of him at all times. Because when he stops moving, Nog stops moving. When he moves to the left, Nog moves to the left. And he goes, "Would you stop doing that?" And Nog's like, "Doing what? What do you mean?" And Garrick's like, "You're making sure I don't walk behind you." And Nog's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And Garrick's like, "Oh my gosh, is this about that thing that happened at Empok Nor? That like little thing?" And he's like, "You tied me up and threatened to kill me." And he's like, "Oh yes, but I do that all the time. That doesn't mean anything." Right. And so we do kind of see a callback, which is pretty rare in most Trek, Deep Space Nine being the exception. And we also, that also kind of is on the road to how Nog continues to develop through the show, because he starts out as like little Ensign Eager, which is so adorbs. And then we see him kind of becoming more accustomed to what this life really is like, to being like, "Oh my gosh, I could actually be in danger. Oh my gosh, I could actually be hurt. Oh my gosh, I could be kidnapped. I could be shot. Like, do I still want to do this? I still want to do this." And so I would give, it's planting the seeds for future growth. And the other thing is we do see more backstory, like I said, about Garrick, and more backstory about O'Brien. So I would count that as development. It's not like really new, because we see this kind of G.I. Joe side of O'Brien quite a bit. And I'm here for it. Every time I see it, I love it. But I feel like we didn't get nearly as much as I would love of backstory on Garrick. Like every time you find out more, I still want to know more. So on that alone, I would have to give that category to Deep Space Nine. Then the last category is storytelling. Who told a better story? I think Return of the Archons is a more complete story, because Empok Nor is really just like Garrick goes crazy and tries to kill everyone after the other Cardassians killed everyone, like killed all the others. That's like the whole story. The whole story is, it's a cat and mouse game. Can you survive Garrick? Who's going to last to the end? It's a very simple plot, which I love simple plots. It's not trying to be confusing. It's not trying to be all over the place. But if we didn't have this incredible character of Garrick, if we didn't have Nog, who I adore, if we didn't have O'Brien, if we swapped out those 3 characters for 3 other characters, I think this episode wouldn't be as interesting. And I think it would be really flat, and I think it wouldn't be very memorable. But these people were just like the perfect combination. On the other hand, Return of the Archons, in my opinion, was a more complete story. Like, it was like, okay, in the beginning, there's this guy running for his life. Why is he running for this life? Who is this other robot person who's like zapping him or whatever? Why are they dressed as Wild West? Oh my gosh, they're all being mind controlled. There was just more things going on in the way the story was told. And then at the end, you're like, oh, what a twist. Didn't see that coming. And then, it just feels more complete. So I would give the point to TOS. So for me, I gave 2 out of 3 of the points to TOS for this particular category. But where is it? There. Okay. But let's hear from you. You can vote yourself by clicking that QR code or clicking the link in the chat. Okay, I'm going to bring that down for a second so we can go to the next set of videos. Okay, hello. Okay, so when Grace says, "Sorry, I meant 3 tubes or Cardassians." Oh, yes. When they found the tubes, there was 3 tubes of Cardassian security guards left, and one of them was dead. That's how they knew that the tubes contained Cardassian security guards, but the other 2 showed signs that they were recently opened. Okay, but when Grace also, weren't they there to get a piece, like some piece of equipment? Did they ever get that piece of equipment? I honestly can't remember. Yes, I love seeing Borg, love it. Yeah, hopefully you can still listen after your screen shuts off. Let's fingers crossed. They had a blue Bolian in Empok Nor. Oh, okay. I totally forgot about the Bolian. I remember the citizens were creepy when they were slowly closing in on Kirk and company. Yes, they were they were creepy the whole time. I know what you mean, like the part when they were running for their lives and they like turned the corner and the whole mob was like coming from both sides, but very slowly, and they had like all these weapons raised menacingly, but they weren't chasing them. They were just like very slowly walking towards them. Yeah. They were creepy the whole time. They were creepy before they had those weapons. When they were just slowly walking across the street and they were unarmed, yeah, whole thing, terrifying. 100%. If Garrick wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Garrick just wanted to like have a blast with those people, like play around with them, like cat and mouse. I love how Empok Nor is a slow bird. Me too. Listen to A Stitch in Time. That book or the movie? Okay. Now let's go to the second set of episodes I want to compare. So the first category was mind control. This category is viruses. So let's look at the first one. Season 7, Episode 19, Genesis. The crew of the Enterprise starts to devolve into primitive forms. Picard and Data, unaffected by the changes, work to reverse the mutation while running for their lives from what's left of the crew. Data saves the day in time for Picard to avoid being eaten by Worf. This is one of my favorite episodes of all of TNG. I think I have like 20 favorite episodes out of 178. This is definitely one of the 20. Often one of the 10, I believe, like one of the top 10. This episode's so good. And anyways, virus. Okay, this is why it's in this category of scary episodes. So in this case, there was a virus. The science is a little sketchy, but there was a virus that was introduced to the population because of Barclay's hypochondria. And it became infectious or it was an infectious T cell, but we're going to call it a virus because T cells don't. So we're going to call it a virus. So the virus runs through the ship and causes everybody to de-evolve into all kinds of things. Someone actually mentioned recently that on the bridge, because I always forget about this dude, on the bridge, there's this guy sitting, I think like in the pilot seat maybe, and he just got like his chest ripped open. And somebody had just mentioned this in another video. They were like, who did that? Did anybody cop to that? Did anybody say, my bad, that was me? When I was a monster, I ate him. And I was like, probably not. Like, dude's just sitting, just the whole inside's ripped out. And apparently this ship has no cameras. It actually does in one episode, but then apparently never again. So anyways, this virus causes everybody to de-evolve. And unfortunately, some of them de-evolve to predators. Some of them de-evolve to prey. Some of them devolve to amphibians. Some of them devolve to snakes. I mean, all kinds of things are going wild on this ship. And a couple of things that I think about is, one, who's going around eating all the crew members? Because that's a problem. Two, what about the children? This is yet another reason why I don't want children on the flagship myself personally. Because the kids are all animals now too. / being eaten by other animals. I don't know. It's just creepy. Also, the way they do this episode is so terrifying. It's obviously, this one is supposed to be horror for sure. When Picard and Data return to the Enterprise, it is the Enterprise with the lights turned off. Classic. That's how we know it's going to be scary. And there's like really weird life signs that they're getting, but the ship is adrift. No one's answering hails. No one's responding to anything. They're getting life sign readings, but they're all weird and they're all over the ship. When they actually they go into the cargo bay in their shuttle. When they walk into the hallways, they just hear like animal noises. They hear hissing and growling and scraping. And they're like, that's weird. Okay, I'm out already at this point. They're like, that's weird. And as they're walking, they find this entire snake skin that's just like shed, laid out in the hallway. So somebody not only turned into a snake, but had time to shed their entire skin. So they're like, oh, that's not a good sign. And then they're kind of walking like, let's go to the bridge and let's go, that's where they see the guy with his chest open. Let's go to engineering. Like, let's kind of shore up the most important parts of the ship and figure out what's going on. When they get to engineering, they see spider webs everywhere. Ugh. And then you see Barclay has turned into like, he's in the process of turning into a giant spider. And It still just makes my skin crawl just thinking about it, actually. It's so creepy and it's so scary and it's so well done. And the part where he jumps against that, I don't think it's glass, but against the window between that station and the warp core, and he like bangs on it and like hits it a couple times and then like scurries away. And Picard's just like, oh my gosh, and Data's like, how interesting. It's so scary. And Picard's like, I'm scared, but I'm more scared than I would normally be. Like, what is going on? And Data's like, boop, 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 boop. Oh, it looks like you're infected too. And it looks like you're turning into, I think he said like a marmoset or something like that. That's what Picard was devolving into. Definitely something that will be eaten. So he's like, oh my gosh, I feel like he's feeling all of the prey instincts of like, something's chasing me, something's here. Meanwhile, because why not? We also have a Worf and Deanna Troi thing happening, because that was kind of like a season 7 situation where they were friends. They were becoming more than friends. And so this episode had some of that in it, but in monster form. So Deanna's living her best life as an amphibian. She's in her quarters. She's got this like, what I want to describe it as, like I keep wanting to say moat. It's dank and it's wet and it's damp and it's just like, in my mind, gross. It's super humid, and she's laying in the bathtub, which who knew they even had bathtubs on the ship, because they always are in the sonic showers. But she's just like laying underwater, and she's just basking in this beautiful kind of oasis that she's created, this like really muggy swamp that she's made. Meanwhile, while she's just living her best life, Worf, who's turned into a proto-Klingon, is like, I need Troi. And he's like totally in heat. And so he's running around the whole ship trying to find her. And apparently she has pheromones, because why not? So he's running around the ship trying to find her to mate with her, I suppose. And they use this fact, Data and Picard use this fact to kind of like bring Worf away from the other crew members that he could potentially eat, and kind of isolate him so that Data can work his magic and then cure the entire ship. It's awesome. I love it. It's such a great show. This is such a great episode. It's really creepy. It's really scary. You can already see, I think, that the storytelling was done very well. What else? Nope, that's it. It was amazing. Okay, let's compare it to our second viral episode, and then I'll check out the chat. So our second viral episode is from Voyager. And here we go. Season 3, Episode 12, Macrocosm. While returning from diplomatic negotiations, Captain Janeway and Neelix find Voyager seemingly abandoned and under quarantine. They soon discover that the crew has been incapacitated by giant airborne viruses that are extremely aggressive. Janeway quickly becomes the last organic standing, so she partners with the Doctor to cure the crew and sterilize the ship by any means necessary. Can I just say something about that scene? Okay, so Kate Mulgrew is such a ham, right? When she acts, at least in Voyager, she's so like extra and over the top. And I am here for it, because she could deliver these lines in the most boring, basic way, but she doesn't. She does the extra. She does the most. She puts all her vibrato into it and everything. This scene alone, I was watching it and it just made me laugh, because I was like, there's nothing here except for the rest of the crew that are all laid out on the floor. But she's standing there, and I guess someone tells her like, hey, there's a virus behind you. And the way she turns and shoots and then falls over, she had to knock herself over on that table. And I had forgotten this part. She hit the table so hard that she broke her ribs. Not in real life, but the character, right? So Janeway hit the table so hard that she broke her ribs. So she rolls over, she shoots the virus, and then she gets up and she can barely breathe because she has broken her ribs and nearly punctured a lung. So she limps her way to sickbay to heal herself, because she doesn't even know if the EMH is online or not. This is why that's my captain. She's like, broken ribs and no broken ribs. I got my phaser rifle. I'm heading to sickbay, and I'm getting my ship back one way or another. This is going to be my ship, which I love it. But yeah, this is Voyager's version of Genesis, obviously. But instead of doing the crew turns into monsters, instead we have viruses that are the monsters. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. And again, science is questionable here, but a fun episode where the viruses are now so big, and somehow they propel themselves, that they could chase you around the ship, knock you to the ground, and then stab you and inject you with their virus particles, so that you become this virus making factory. So they're literally like running for their lives from these giant viruses that are attracted to heat and sound and light kind of like zombies, depending on the movie you're watching, right? So any kind of movement or motion, they're coming for you. They are coming for you. And at this point, the entire ship is laid out. Everyone is laid. The viruses have attacked every last person. Poor little Naomi, they've attacked everybody. So when Janeway comes on board, they're like, fresh meat. So they're all like trying to find her. And of course, the doctor, they even attack the doctor because the doctor has, he's made of light. And apparently they respond to UV light as well, or like whatever kind of light he's made out of. Light emissions, not just like heat emissions. So dang, everybody's screwed on this ship. But of course, Janeway's not going to let it stay there. During this time where the entire ship has been laid out, the doctor has created a cure and one cute little hypo spray gun. However, he's like, I want to inoculate the crew and get rid of these viruses, but every time I leave sickbay, I get attacked. And so I have to come back here because one time they were attacking my mobile emitter and I was like, no, we're not having that. So I came back, right? So he was like, so I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And so Janeway's like, can you just like disperse it through the system, just like in Genesis? And he's like, I could if I knew how to do that. That's not in my program. I'll know how to do that. So Janeway's like, oh my gosh. Okay, fine. I'll talk you through it. We're going to make antigen bombs. So they take the cure and somehow put them into like grenades, which of course Janeway does. And she's like, you take a couple grenades. I'll take a couple grenades. I'm going to take my phaser rifle. You take a phaser rifle. And we're going to both take separate routes to whatever that place was called, environmental controls, I don't know, someplace on the ship where they could disperse this cure throughout the entire ship. So it was like, that'll double our chances if we split up and kind of make our way in separate ways. We're probably gonna have to use a lot of Jeffries tubes and back doors and stuff like that because we don't know where the viruses are. Of course, the viruses are in the Jeffries tubes. The viruses are in the back doors. They're not falling for any of this. The doctor gets waylaid halfway there, and he ends up holding up in the shuttle bay. And he's just like in a shuttle, just trying to like survive. And you just hear like, bzz, bzz, because also, by the way, these viruses buzz, because why not? So you just hear bzz, bzz, and they're just banging against the shuttle, right? And he's like, I got stuck. I couldn't make it. And Jay was like, it's fine. I'm almost there. So she gets there. She tries to put the system back up, but some other things go wrong. Eventually they get that working. They're able to release the cure into the system, but we also have to get rid of all of the giant viruses that are still roaming the ship. So that cure is going to cure all the humans that are infected and laid out, but they also need to take care of the physical large objects that are roaming implacably looking for Janeway and the doctor. So they turn on the holodeck program that Neelix made of that like tiki bar. And for some reason, they program all the holograms to act like real people, to like run and scream and, act all wild as these viruses are coming to attack them. So the viruses all go into the holodeck. And they're all like going crazy. They're just injecting all the holograms that they could find within like seconds. I feel like 30 seconds. Every single hologram is laid out, which I felt like it's the holodeck. Why didn't you just like make more? Just keep making more people just so that the viruses stay entertained. Any case, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who. Because once they're all in there, Janeway takes her grenade, throws it in there, runs for it, and then boom, they're all sterilized with that antigen bomb. So fun, right? Okay. So I want to compare who did it better, TNG or Voyager, with their creepy story. So again, our three categories are like set deck, alien look, ambiance, vibe. First category is vibe. Our second category is like character development. And our third category is storytelling. So who do you think did it better? There is a link in the chat for you to vote. And I will pop that QR code back up in case you want to put in your vote for who did it better. While you're voting, I am going to check the chats and then I'll come right back. Yes, exactly. Die Hard, Rambo, all the things. Barclay and spiders. No one wants this combination. It was fascinating to see the types of life forms that the TNG crew members evolved from. Betazoids from amphibians was one I did not see coming. Yeah, it's really interesting too, because if you notice the Betazoid eyes, they're like really big, like the pupils of their eyes are really big and black, which is common amongst certain animals, but not others. So it was an interesting choice because you can't really tell that unless it's a super close up on Lwaxana or Deanna. So it's just an interesting choice that they even did that because it's so subtle. It's not like the Bajoran nose ridges or like the Vulcan ears or something that's a little more like, oh, I see that. It's you're almost like, wait, is that not? So it's really interesting that they went to amphibians as well. Yes, Barclay's de-evolution into a spider was super creepy. Agreed. Spiders are the one creature on this earth that I cannot abide. Spiders are so interesting, but also Also a little creepy crawly, right? Imagine having to write to the bereaved, sorry, your son or daughter was eaten by a monster. Yes. And then imagine the fact that that monster was another crew member. That's awkward, right? Sorry, your son or daughter was eaten by a monster who they just had tea with yesterday. But what happened was, we're on the Enterprise and weird is in the job title. A virus went through the whole ship and everyone was monsters. So yeah, sorry about that. I mean, it's just awful, right? I do not have a category for best tank top action, but if I did have a category, Win Grace, how would you vote in that category? Yes, Janeway having her Ripley moment, of course. The virus buzz, because why not? Yes, it was like that part. I don't know. It just like, again, thinking about that makes my skin crawl. Thinking about that buzzing sound from these giant virus. At least you get a warning, I guess. The smaller ones buzzed too, but you couldn't hear them as well. But the giant ones had a big buzz. So you could hear them coming from a mile away, like, oh, here they come. So I guess that's kind of nice for, running for your life purposes. Yeah, they needed some kind of sound effect, apparently. Okay, PS2 Chipper, I hate snakes. So does Indiana Jones. So you are in good company. Sorry, Mott the Barber ate your kids. Oh, sorry. You don't see a link to vote. Okay, so you can use, there's the link. The link is pinned in the chat. So you can, I don't know if it's still there. You scroll to, I'm not really sure how it looks on your phone, but also there is a QR code there that you can use. If you're, if you're like watching on the TV and you have your phone, but you can also vote later. You don't have to vote right now. Okay, so now let's look at the third set of episodes. This category is zombies. Okay, so we did mind control, we did viruses. This one is going to be zombies. Season 5, Episode 5, Starbase 80. The Cerritos drops out of warp due to a navigation malfunction and must get help from the nearest Federation outpost, the long-neglected Starbase 80. As the crew works with the station's outdated systems, members begin acting strangely, attacking and licking everything in sight. They ultimately discover that this is not a curse, it's actually an anaphasic life form that bit off more than it could chew, literally. This episode is so fun. If you don't watch another episode of Lower Decks, this one is so fun. And it's got a lot of, well, I was going to say it's got a lot of Easter eggs, but that's kind of the motto of Lower Decks. Every episode has a lot of Easter eggs, but this one has a lot, because this old space station, which is Starbase 80, it's got some, it reminds you of Deep Space Nine because it's a station, but all the tech is from like TOS era. So they really just mix in everything you could ever want in this episode as far as Easter eggs. Anyways, okay, back to our discussion about zombies. So in the beginning of this episode, Mariner is not Starbase 80. I can't go back because she had been sent there once for punishment. I think she stayed for like a week or something. And then she was like, never again, I can never go back to that place. It's the worst thing ever. It's cursed. It's haunted. It's cursed. And they're like, you are being so paranoid, like chill out. So when they get to Starbase 80, everything seems fine at first, but then slowly and surely, every single person on the starbase starts getting those glowy eyes like you saw in the video, and they just start like licking walls and licking floors and attacking people and licking their face or whatever. And they're like, what is going on? And so then Mariner is like, I told you, Starbase 80 is cursed. It's cursed. It's cursed. And then the, remind me in the chat the name of the commander of that starbase, because I'm blanking on her name. But whatever her name was, I thought that character was so great and I wanted to see her so much more. Anyways, the commander of the starbase is like, no, it's just, this is the place of second chances. Like there's nothing wrong with it. And then we come to find out that this contamination event that was causing everybody to act crazy actually came from the Cerritos. And so it wasn't Starbase 80 that was cursed. If anything, it was the Cerritos that was cursed. And Mariner was like, what? The Cerritos is cursed? I can't believe it. But it's kind of one of those moments like, do you remember that episode of The Simpsons where we discovered that Bart has an evil twin living in the attic? And then we discover that Bart's evil twin is actually the good one and Bart's the evil one. And you're kind of like, oh yeah, that tracks. At first you're like, what? And then you're like, oh yeah, no, yeah, Bart is the evil one. Like we actually already knew that. They did the same exact thing in Futurama with Bender and whatever his evil twin's name is. Oh, okay. Cassia. Yes. Cassia Knox. Yes. Thank you. And Bender's evil twin. And same thing at the end where they were like, oh wait, Bender's the evil one. You're like, yeah, Bender is the evil one. That's kind of what was going on here where Mariner's like, it's not, Starbase 80 is cursed. It's cursed. And then she's like, oh wait, Cerritos is cursed. And you're like, yeah, that tracks. Like everything that you guys go through, that totally tracks. But it's a fun episode. And in the end, it turns out it was an anaphasic life form who is also a lower decker themselves. And they wanted to prove to their commanders or supervisors that they were talented enough to take over other organics. So they start to take over organics. First, the contamination happened on the Cerritos at like their last away mission or whatever. And so now they've transferred kind of to Starbase 80 and they're taking everything over. But they are totally losing control. Like they can't keep control of this many different people and systems and things like that. And so anyways, Mariner and team, they end up taking the anaphasic life form out of the main creature that it's controlling, which is one of the dolphins. And they like capture it in some little container. And then everybody goes back to normal. Everyone stops licking stuff. And they're kind of horrified to find out that they have been licking so many things. And this is when they find the whole thing out where they're like, what happened? Why did you do this? Why were you attacking us? And it was like, I wasn't attacking you. It was just because my supervisor said I couldn't do it. And I want to prove that I could do it. But it turns out I couldn't do it. It turns out they were right. And then, you know, they're like, what should we do? Should we like punish him or them? Should we punish them? Or like, what should we do? And Cassia Knox, who is the commander of Starbase 80, is like, you know what? This is the land of second chances. I think we can just forgive everything, forgive and forget and move on. And it's totally fine. It's actually like a really sweet ending. Just a great episode. So it is super creepy for most of the time. And then in the end, it's pretty lighthearted and really sweet, I think. Okay, let's look at the second episode to compare this one with. More Zombies. Season 3, Episode 3, Shuttle to Kenfori. Captain Pike and Dr. M'Benga go on a shuttle mission to the restricted planet Kenfori to collect a rare chimera blossom needed to save Dr. Patel's life. They quickly find that something's not right on this planet. At first, the science station seems abandoned, but soon they discover zombie-like creatures that want to eat everything and everyone. At the same time, a female Klingon warrior wants vengeance on Dr. M'Benga for killing her father so that she can restore her honor. Yeah, there is a lot going on in this episode. So I just said that Lower Decks episode had a lot, right? I said Starbase 80 just was like, and actually, this is said perfectly. Starbase 80, what a mishmash of everything. It had a little bit of everything. It had all of the, it had Easter eggs from like all of the shows up until this point, which was so fun. This episode of Strange New Worlds also had a lot of things going on, but like not in a good way. Not the same way that the Lower Decks episode was like, oh, wow, ooh, look at this, ooh, look at that. Oh, they've got the same little handle things that they used on the Enterprise without any bloody A, B, C, or D. Like it's not that. You're kind of watching this episode and you're like, okay. There's like 1,000 things that happen in this episode, and it doesn't totally seem to go with the thing before, but the reason why it's in this list is because at some point zombies. So in this episode, and you're like, okay, because that's just the vibe, right? So the episode starts with them needing to do this secret mission to this restricted planet to find this super special plant that can help save Dr. Patel's life. Okay, with you here. Somehow Captain Pike finds out about this secret mission. Not somehow, I guess they told him or asked him or something or whatever, but he figures out what it's about, like why it's happening. And so he's like, okay, I need to go on this mission because Patel's my girlfriend and like, I want to be a part of it. And they're like, you can't because you have to have deniability that you didn't know about it. He was like, I don't care about that. I'm a Starfleet captain. So, okay, him and Ben go to the planet to go get this plant. Okay, fine. They get to the planet. And of course, they're like immediately spotted by some other Klingon ship, which is like, it's their territory. So that's why they're not supposed to be there. But anyways, so they're like, well, that sucks. While they're down on the planet inside of the space station, they're like, this place is super creepy. Like there's nobody there. It's all desolate. They go in and it's like all the plants that were being researched in this facility have now gone wild. So it's kind of like the outside is now on the inside. As they're walking through, there's just like plants everywhere and it's all kind of crazy. It's really creepy. So they're like, what happened to all of these? What happened to all the researchers? Like they just disappeared. Where could they have gone? So they're trying to figure out what happened. And they're like, oh, there's a special plant. We got to get that special chimera plant so that Patel doesn't die. Okay, so they get the plant, job done. But then just as they're about to celebrate, some Klingons show up out of nowhere, blow up their shuttle. So you're like, darn. And Chris had already told, the Enterprise, I think, not to come get them or something. I don't know. I don't know if they knew what was going on the planet or not at this point. But anyways, so they're like, that sucks. So they're like, let's get out of here. But then the Klingons are on them before they can move, and they're holding disruptors on them or whatever their guns are called. And they're like, speaking Klingon, like, come with me or I'm going to get vengeance or whatever. But before they can attack, all of a sudden, these zombies come out of nowhere and like snatch one or two of them away and just start like eating them. And that gives Pike and M'Benga a chance to run for their lives. So you're like, okay, now we're doing zombies. we were doing special plant, we were doing restricted planet, now we're doing zombies. So all of the researchers had their DNA affected by this exact plant they're looking for, which mixed with some other kind of plant that was in the station and had some kind of unfortunate event, ran through the whole place, turned everyone into zombies. And I guess question mark here, if you were not immediately turned into a zombie, or if you were not turned into a zombie fast enough, you were eaten by the zombies. So there's no like animals left on this planet either, because I guess the zombies ate them. And then here's another question mark. I suppose when all their food had run out, they just like went to sleep. I think that's what they were trying to show us. They just like hibernated. And then as soon as food returned to the planet, then they all woke up so that they could eat the people. I don't know. Like, again, this is another time where you're like, science has left the building, because this is making no sense. But okay, we're watching it. Like, we're hoping for the best. So zombies, so Klingons, so they're running for their lives. They end up outside somehow. And then there's even more zombies there. And there's just like a field littered with sleeping zombies. And as they run out and make a fuss, all the zombies are like, what? Oh, that sounds like food. So they all get up. And then Pike turns on this force field situation, this little triangle of a force field where they're all inside the force field. And they're like, okay, we're going to be safe until that battery pack runs out, which of course is going to run out in like 5 minutes, right? So like, okay, we're all safe in here. But the one Klingon who's still alive wants vengeance on M'Benga. So she is holding them both at gunpoint still. And they're both like, okay, but like priorities, right? Zombies or revenge? Can we pick a lane? And she's like, I don't care about these zombies. I just want revenge. And you're like, facepalm. So whatever. They fight a little bit. They talk it out a little bit. In the end, she decides to sacrifice her life so that she can die with honor. At the same time that the shield goes down, and she starts shooting into the air so that all the zombies are attracted to her because they're attracted to sounds. And at the same time, Pike and M'Benga run quietly into her shuttle that's waiting there with the doors open, and thankfully no zombies inside. Which if you've ever seen Zombieland, there's probably some zombies inside. But anyways, with no zombies inside. So they get into the shuttle, they fly up, they go back to the Enterprise, all is well. They get the special plant, they save Patel's life. Yay. That's this one. So I was really surprised to see zombies in Star Trek. But then when I started doing this double take, I was like, it's not the first time. It's actually not even the first time for Strange New Worlds, because they had a zombie in season 2 as well. But it was like a flashback memory of a colleague who died, who kind of looked like a zombie because they had been dead for a while. That just made more sense to me, because it was like a traumatic vision of one of the characters of a friend that they lost. So that made sense to me to have like a zombie type creature. This one was straight up just like, let's just have zombies. And then the funny thing is, is it funny? I don't know. But at some point, Pike is just like, they look like zombies. And M'Benga is like, there's no such thing as zombies or something. And Pike is like, but they're zombies. And you're like, did he have to say that? Because if he didn't say that, we wouldn't have known. If he didn't tell us that, we would have been totally clueless about what these creatures were supposed to be. I don't know. But anyways, that's that episode. So you tell me, who did it better? The 3 categories. The first is like the vibe, right? The alien looks, the makeup, set deck, stuff like that. The second is the character development. The third is the storytelling in general. Who did it better? You can use the vote with the link that's in the chat. You can also, got it. You can also scan this QR code if you're watching on your TV, and you can vote as well to say what you think and who did it better. I am so curious to hear your thoughts. So I'm done comparing all the 3 categories, but I want to see for myself who did it better. So I'm actually going to share my screen. I'm going to take the poll, and then we're going to see who the winner is based on what you guys have all said. So if you haven't voted yet, now's the time. Now's the time. All right, I'm going to take that down for a second. I'm going to share my screen. Now that I'm doing this, I'm like, I should have practiced this. Share screen. Share. Okay. Who did it better? For the first one, Return of the Archons versus DS9's, TOS is the Return of the Archons versus DS9's Empok Nor. So as far as looks, I thought TOS was more unique just because Empok Nor was like literally Deep Space Nine with the lights off. But most of you guys picked Deep Space Nine. For character development, I thought Deep Space Nine had way more character development. Apparently, most of you agree. And then for storytelling, I thought TOS was a more complete story. So, it looks like a lot of people just went DS9, 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 regardless of anything else. Let me know what you voted in the chat or your thoughts on this. Okay, now TNG's Genesis versus Voyager's Macrocosm. Both super good episodes. Genesis is one of my favorite episodes of all time of TNG. Macrocosm's like, I like it. It's probably not one of my favorite episodes of all time of Voyager, but I do like it. As far as the alien looks or the set deck goes, I am going to give it to TNG. Ooh, a 50-50 split. Oh, somebody just changed it. Someone just changed the votes. So TNG won, just on that last one vote. Character development. Did we see anybody develop in this? I would say, oh gosh, this is a hard one. I'm going to say Janeway. I'm going to give this to Janeway. Okay, looks like most people agreed. Storytelling. Which story was told better? I just think Genesis is just more interesting all around. Yeah, I'm going to give it to TNG. Also 50-50. Someone want to split the tie? All right, so TNG. TNG won that category. Oops. Go. All right, our last set. Starbase 80 from Lower Decks versus Shuttle to Kenfori from Strange New Worlds. Who had the better sets and alien looks? This is also kind of hard because Starbase 80 is so awesome. And every level and every layer they go through, you're like, what the heck is going on? I think they have like giant bat things down in some corridor or whatever. And they have a bunch of, I forget the name of those aliens, but it's the ones that were like, they were in the Utah episode, the one where Riker like blasted his girlfriend. They were in that episode. Like a bunch of them live there and they're like super shady and stuff. They have an arcade. They have so much fun stuff on the Lower Decks episode. And in Shuttle to Kenfori, we do get this really cool planet. We get this really cool lab. The zombie makeup was so good. And the actual actors and the way they were acting like zombies and twisting and turning and stuff, so good. They were so fast and terrifying. This is a really hard one. Who did it better? I'm going to give it to Lower Decks. But honestly, it's a coin toss on this one for me. Character development. Probably Lower Decks for sure, because I don't know what was going on in Strange New Worlds. I guess we did have the Klingon woman who did kind of like say, okay, I can't get revenge the way I want, but I can die an honorable death. I think that was really good. But I like the message in Lower Decks of second chances, and I think that's something that definitely carries on throughout the rest of the season, which was only like a couple episodes after this, but it was amazing. So I'm gonna give it to Lower Decks. Now it's tied. Can we get one more vote? See if we can break the tie. And then storytelling. Who told a better story? Oh, for sure Lower Decks, because Strange New Worlds was all over the darn place. It was a good story, but it was all over the darn place. Okay, so it looks like we're still tied here. Lastly, which was the best overall from all of the ones that we have just talked about? Which was the absolute best for a spooky episode? So I'm going to take Strange New Worlds out. I'm going to take Lower Decks out. I'm going to take TOS out. So it's between Genesis, Macrocosm, and Empok Nor. Which one was scarier? I'm going to say Genesis. Of course I am. It's like one of my favorite episodes. Boom. There we go. Almost everybody agrees with me. No one said Voyager. Oh, little Voyager. Too bad I can't vote twice. Well, that is it. Thank you so much for participating. If you were able to vote, if not, it's not too late because that link is just going to be there. So you can keep voting. Even if you're watching on the replay, you can vote and totally change those numbers. I want to say thank you to everyone who is here live. Thank you to everyone who's watching on the replay. I'm going to check the chats and then we're going to be done for today. And I will see you next week. But before that, let's see. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff. Yes. : I love that. Let us Borg out. I like how before I even started talking, PS2 Chipper was just like, I'm giving this to Lower Decks. Like I'm just giving everything to Lower Decks. That's what I'm doing. Have you seen Lower Decks? Have you seen Lower Decks? PS2 Chipper? When Grace says, if you want a zombie episode with almost nothing going on except zombies, wait until you get to Enterprise. Oh my gosh, did they do zombies in Enterprise as well? What is going on? What is going on, Enterprise? Do they do unique storylines in Enterprise? I haven't seen Enterprise yet, so that's what I'm asking. And what season do they do that in? Because I kind of want to watch it now. Gavin says New Trek boo, so not a fan of New Trek. I personally love some of the New Trek. Like Lower Decks is just my favorite thing ever. So I have no problems with that. I wonder if Sonequa helped with this one. Do you mean with the Strange New Worlds episode? I have no idea. Yep, zombies and an angry Klingon. That kind of sums up the whole episode. It seems Klingons don't taste good to zombies. I don't know, because they ate a lot of Klingons. So they ate all the Klingons. So maybe they do taste good. Season 3 Strange New Worlds writers are like loading. You're not wrong. Okay, are the season 3 writers the same as the ones for season 1 and 2? I actually don't know this. Grace probably knows. I actually don't know the answer to that, but it does feel different. Some of the writers for season 3 were responsible for CW Supergirl. How interesting. I didn't know that. Let's see. That's okay. DJ Magix, if you can't vote right now, that's totally fine. You can vote later when you get back to like a computer or something. It's still going to be there. It's not going anywhere. There was an Enterprise episode. There was an Enterprise where there was a ship full of zombie Vulcans. Vulcans of all things. That is so interesting. Were they scary? Or were they like the most logical zombies you've ever seen? Tell me about that episode. What was the quality of that episode? Was it an enjoyable episode or was it a big old mess? Oh, thank you. God bless you too. Well, there were before Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, season 3, episode 5, Impulse. Okay. Oh, season 3. Okay. Got it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining me live. Once again, thank you to everybody who's watching the replay. Be sure to get your votes in if you haven't yet already, because every time you vote, the information will change. But if you've already voted once, you're kind of done. It doesn't let you vote again. So that's it. But thank you everybody for coming. I'll see you same time, same place next week.